William, hopefully your favorite videographer. We are here at the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board meeting, the agency known as DART to Dallas, Texas residents. As a service to the Dallas community, we plan to cover DART board meetings from gavel to gavel. Public comments are required to keep DART board aware of issues close to the ridership that they may not get through other resources.
Good evening, and welcome to the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board of Directors meeting. Today, Tuesday, October the 4th, 2016, and it is now 6:48 p.m. The first item we have on the agenda are the approval of the minutes from the September 27th meeting. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye. Okay, the minutes will stand as written. Okay, today is the beginning of our new fiscal year, so we must vote on board officers for the coming year. I'm nervous because I'm up for re-election. So if I appear a little bit nervous, that's why, guys. The board's bylaws require that board officers be elected at the annual meeting of the board, which is the first regular meeting in the month of October. Today, we will elect the board chair, a board vice chair, a secretary, and an assistant secretary. The specific procedure for electing officers is established in Rule 1 of the DART Board Rules of Procedure. Do I hear a motion that we suspend the requirement that voting be conducted using the electronic voting system for this year's election of board officers?
Madam Chair, I move that we suspend the requirement that voting be conducted using the electronic voting system for this year's election.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second that we suspend the requirement that voting be conducted using the electronic voting system for this year's election of board officers. Since this motion cannot be debated or amended, we will move directly to a vote on the motion. A two-thirds vote is required because this motion temporarily suspends an established rule of procedure. We have voted and the ayes did pass. The rule is suspended. In a few minutes, I will open nominations for the 4 board officer positions. Each candidate We had a motion and a second. I need a vote to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? How's that, office? Okay. All righty. So the motion passes and the rule is suspended. In a few minutes, I will open nominations for the 4 board officer positions. Each candidate should be nominated by a board member. The nomination does not require a second. A majority vote of those members present is required to elect. For example, if there are 14 members present, a candidate must receive 8 yes votes to be elected. Are there any questions about the voting procedure we will use? We will now begin the election process. The floor is now open for nominations.
Madam Chair, I nominate Faye Wilkins for the position of board chair, Richard Calazares for the position of board vice chair, Gary Slagle for the position of board secretary, and Jerry Christian for the position of board assistant secretary.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations for the 4 board officer positions are closed. Since there's only one nominee for each of the board officers' positions, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of electing Faye Wilkins for board chair, Richard Carrizales for board vice chair, Gary Slagle for board secretary, and Jerry Christian for board assistant secretary, please say aye. Aye. All those who oppose, please say no. Ladies and gentlemen, the nominees have been elected. This concludes the 2016 election of board officers. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is public comments. General public comments will be allowed at the beginning of each DART board meeting for a total of 30 minutes. and again at the end of the meeting when the 30-minute period does not accommodate all persons who have signed up to speak. Individuals who have addressed the board in the past 30 days will be recognized to speak during the public comment period at the end of the meeting. During the public comment period, board members may not interact with speakers or other board members by asking questions or offering their own comments. Members of the public are reminded that their behavior during DART board meetings is governed by the DART Board Code of Conduct for citizens, news media, and visitors. Personal attacks, impertinent or slanderous remarks, and boisterous conduct would not be allowed. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The green light on the podium will indicate when you can begin speaking. The yellow light indicates you have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates that your time has expired. The first speaker we have this evening is the mayor from Addison, Todd Meyer.
Well, thank you, and congratulations. I admire the democratic process. Congratulations to each one of you, and thank you for your service. And while I'm in that mode, I've really enjoyed coming to your meetings and your work sessions the last several months, and I admire the way that you conduct business. I'm proud to be a member city of DART, and we look forward to continuing to be so. I'm really encouraged by what we've seen and heard, and hopefully by this point you all know I'm here to speak on behalf of support of the Cotton Belt and the D2. And based on the information that we heard earlier, I'm really tempted, and I know it's totally inappropriate to quote Shakespeare at this point, but to be or not to be really seems to be the obvious question. We have Shakespeare in the park in Addison this next weekend, so I couldn't pass on that. I apologize. But with all seriousness, when we think about regional partnerships, this is the embodiment of regional partnership right here in this room. And 2 things I'd point out for you that I probably haven't alluded to in the past, but one, and maybe foremost, is the integrity of the process, the integrity of being a partner and what that means in terms of fairness overall. And you all set the bar there tonight, and your vote on the 25th will reflect that as to potential future partners. And I know you aspire, and I certainly support your aspiration to grow DART, but what you do with respect to your current partners will affect how future partners view you. And I noticed this week Mayor Rawlings mentioned the opportunity to use DART model in terms of addressing another very serious challenge in our community, and that's homelessness. And when we think about that and the opportunity to, again, grow that concept, fairness to partners is the bedrock of that relationship and that partnership. Last thing I'd mention really is this is a moment in time that's unique. You heard the financial plan. Really, the scenarios are ideal. We couldn't have dreamed that up 20 years ago. And while Addison's been waiting since 1983, there's never been an opportunity like this, where we have additional funds from member cities that are willing to put it in the till now to make the Cotton Belt happen, in addition to $100 million from COG. This is a moment. This is your opportunity to do something really special and demonstrate what regional thinking is really about. So I encourage your support of not only the Cotton Belt, but the D2, and encourage your approval of that project. And again, I don't ever want an opportunity to go by without thanking each one of you for your service to the region and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This next speaker we have is Madame Gallo.
Thank you, Madam and the board members. I come back here, like I told you at the last my CAC report, that we had a task force working on Cotton Belt, and they were so interested. They got a resolution done and got it passed from the CAC to present it to you, even though it's not our normal report time. So I want to read you the resolution quickly. Whereas the DART introduced the proposed Cotton Belt Light Rail route in 1983 final service plan, and whereas DART service cities of Plano, Richardson, Addison, and Carrollton have waited for implementation of the plan for more than 30 years, and whereas DART purchased the Cotton Belt Corridor in 1990, whereas Cotton Belt has included Regional Mobility 2020 Metropolitan Transit Plan and all updates since then. And whereas DART included the route in the DART 2030 plan and all subsequent updates. And whereas the North Central Texas Council of Governments and the Regional Transportation Council also rendered services to help identify funding for the project. And whereas DART developed an alternative and environmental consideration report in 2014, and whereas the most recent proposed plan includes regional rail service from Shallow Road in Plano to Terminal B at DFW Airport with stops in Richardson, Addison, Carrollton, North Lake, Cypress Waters, offering a much-needed east-west route in DART's service area. And whereas the Cotton Belt route offers connections with DART red, green, orange lines and DCTA and the 4T, and whereas DART has coordinated their plans and designs for Cotton Belt with service cities along the route, therefore the CAC recommends that the Board of Directors proceed to finalize plan, obtain funding, and begin the construction of Cotton Belt route with continued coordination with cities along the route. Submitted and signed by Chair CAC. Thank you, and we have more than ever 5 of my fellow members. We could almost have a quorum here today with the few openings, but that's not the issue today. It's to encourage you to act on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goyle. The next speaker we have is Dave Brady, followed by Cheryl Park. How you doing, Mr. Brady?
Very good. Congratulations to you and all the others elected this evening. DART. Just what is that? Dallas Area Rapid Transit. An amalgam of 13 cities who have agreed to share the expenses of building a long-term solution to ease the congestion problems of our north central Texas area. To the concerns of some in Dallas and all our cities, Todd Plesko, Rob Smith, putting together some facts and figures which show the new demographic dynamics of the DART service area. Not a slam dunk thing. The DART service area is really diversified. Matching the time slots for smooth trips is really a demanding task. And the political pundits of the times in any given sector can easily get hooked on a handful of comments from folks who simply don't understand the whole process. The linking of times and places effectively. Some simply have other motives to disrupt the sharing process that is so crucial to building a regional transportation network. Some can't see beyond the limited use of their cars to limited places. They don't ride the buses and the trains every day, so they just don't understand ridership realities. When you make the decisions, you keep a dependent rider getting to work on time, the riders of choice are going to be able to see how the system can work for them very well. They'll see and understand how you understand the value of a good trip. They come to trust DART to make it work for them for all kinds of events, getting to work, events and other activities. And the tug and pull of political games is not the place to sacrifice a good transit network. The economic vitality of our region really depends on getting our people to and from work every day. Students to and from classes. Future earners supporting DART with their taxes.
Mr. Brady, you know I appreciate hearing from you, but your time's up.
Okay?
Okay?
We must encourage you as writers, get on with the Cotton Belt ASAP.
Thank you very much. Next we have Ms. Cheryl Park, followed by Kathleen A Sling. Cheryl Park. Cheryl Park. How about Kathleen A Sling? I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Thank you. Next up is Cookie Peden.
Thanks, Madam Chair and the board. My name is Kathleen A Sling, and I've lived downtown for 12 years. I've worked at Fountain Place for the last 28 years. For the last 6 years, I've lived at SoCo Urban Lofts. That's the building under the current alternative that wasn't really taken into account, even though it's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's the building that would have the 110 decibel bell ringing every 8 minutes outside our single-paned windows that we can't change. And it's also the building where we would probably lose parking under the locally preferred alternative. I'm sure other people have said this to you before. I'm very concerned about the parking loss because I just sold a condo in downtown Austin because there were parking problems and it devalued the property greatly. I agree with all the other commenters that have been here the last few months that a surface line would fragment Dallas and make it more dangerous. And I just don't think another surface line is what we need. But I'm not really here to talk about that because hopefully that above ground, locally preferred alternative is dead. And if it isn't, I'll continue to be on the group who fight it. What I really wanted to say is that getting funding for a subway is imperative if you want Dallas to, and all the surrounding cities, to have all their attractions visited, to be visited by tourists, and basically for it to be a world-class city. I go to visit my friends in Seattle every year for the last 25 years. I went a year ago, and we took the bus. That was a big improvement from driving downtown to Pikes Market and everything, but it was a lot of transfers. It was slow. This year, the subway made it to my friend's house in the University District, and it was absolutely marvelous. In just 3 stops, it was 8 to 12 minutes, we could be downtown to Pikes Market. I took it to the Amtrak, I took it to the ferry, I took the subway to the airport, and it was really cool, the escalators and seeing the bedrock. Anyway, living and working downtown, I think about urban planning a lot. I think of what happened in Austin, where in the 70s they didn't buy right-of-way or build roads so the city wouldn't grow, and now it's in an awful mess, and there's traffic congestion, bad urban planning, and I can say that it's totally unlivable as someone who owned a condo there for 9 years. I think of good urban planning decision like Dallas made, I think also in the 70s, to make Woodall Rogers go down, and eventually a park would happen. That was just turned out to be a brilliant decision, and now we have a park. So I just want to ask, at this point in the development and growth of the city, do we want to make a long-range decision that looks like a big mistake in years to come, or do we want to make a decision that makes Dallas become a world-class city and that people will be saying is brilliant 40 years from now? So it's up to you, DART. I vote for the subway. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. A Sling. The next speaker is Cookie Peden. Following Ms. Peden is Tammy Dublay.
Okay, is the light on? Okay. First of all, I'd like to debunk a couple of myths. I am one of those odd men out. I live in far north Dallas, outer Mongolia. Couple of things that we looked at when we bought houses in our neighborhood were, first of all, as parents and prospective parents, the school systems. We currently have 9 schools within the 2.6 miles that DART will traverse through our neighborhood. Some of those are Richardson schools, some of those are Plano schools, some are private schools, some are religious schools. We have a sincere concern as parents about the safety of those children. We are very concerned about $50 million of mitigation being spread across a 26.2 mile or 26 plus mile stretch of track, because we feel like those kids are the most precious commodity we have. They're our lifeblood and they're our future. So we're really concerned about that. And we are not, if you put property tax, or property values rather, on a scale and put children on the other side, I can guarantee you what probably every person in this room would go for, and that's the safety of the children. That's our primary concern, and that's been why we've been so resistant to the Cotton Belt line going through with such a minimal amount for mitigation. We also are not anti-rail. Most of you know I ride the train down here every time I come to a DART meeting. I take the train whenever I can, so most of my neighbors are not anti-rail. Unfortunately, the positions of stations in our area would mean that it will be very difficult for us to even take a train. Right now I drive to Arapahoe Station or to George Bush to be able to take DART to downtown Dallas. So we have some concerns. We also have concerns about fears of financial positions. I've been in all the meetings. I've heard what people have said about being able to support those financial positions. We really feel strongly that D2 needs to be a priority because that's good for the entire region. It helps establish this entire metropolitan area as a regional destination for outside visitors. So we fully support that. We are concerned that by trying to tackle two very serious major projects at the same time, if any glitch appears, it will jeopardize one or both of those projects. We don't want to see that happen. So we would ask you to look at D2 as a critical component, and we had even at one point looked at doing the westward section of the Cotton Belt, but that's a huge portion of rail to construct. We don't want to say no. If you look at all the different alternative routes along Bush, down across LBJ, and then finally come up with this being the only route, we'd like to work with you. It's been 6 years since we had a focus group meeting where our neighborhoods could provide input. My time is up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. P. Next up, we have Tammy Dublé, followed by Ken Dublé.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Tammy Greenberg Dublé. I live on 1111 South Acker Street. Thank you. I got a letter from you guys. The last IC place are fixed after 6 to 4 months. Thank you so much. Still, 39 butts. I am done with the 39 butts. Last week, I think it was last week, it arrived at 8:45 p.m. at 8 a.m. at the West Transfer Center. I have to be at work at 9 o'clock sharp. It's okay for it to be late, 8:37 a.m., 8:37. But after that, forget it. I only have a 7-minute to get to work. Now my options is I have a 15-minute walk from Akers to Tucson Jacinto. I have to take the 31 bus at 8 o'clock. It will get there at 8:21 because I can't take the 8:49 because I get off at Wellborn. So I have to walk like 5 to 8 minutes. And I have to be there at 9 o'clock. I'm very diligent where I work. I've been doing this for 8 years. But for some reason, 39 reliever drivers don't care. And I know my driver is leaving October 21st. It's on Cannonball. And then the West Transfer Center at 8 o'clock, the 39, then I get there at 8:14. Then I have 40 minutes to do anything. What will I do? I mean, you guys, you're telling me to be there 3 to 5 minutes there. The bus should be timely manner. You guys need to look at the construction at Ross's and Jacinto. You guys need to put another bus on this route. The bus drivers are frustrated. We're frustrated. Please look at this route. And the 36 bus leaves at 8:14. 8:14, but it gets there at 8:40, but I can't take the other bus, please. I don't mind walking a mile or 5 minutes away, but this is not working. The train and the buses don't meet. Please look at this route. Thank you. And
Ms. Dublé, while you're here, Rob, where's Rob Smith? Will you visit with Rob Smith about the issues you're having with the bus and route? He's waving his hand at you now.
And I do appreciate Sergeant Anderson, what he has done for Dart Police. I really appreciate him also. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Dublé, followed by Julio Valerano.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman and the board for the opportunity to speak. I must say I've never given testimony following my wife before, but it's a tough act to follow, but I guess you've heard from the Jewish side of the family, so now you have to listen to the Cajun side. But my wife is addressing the reliability issue, and this is something that is concerned not just to people in Dallas, but for the whole region, because we do have people that are taking the train in every day from Carrollton and Farmers Branch and, you know, Plano, Richardson, whatever. And, you know, and if there's some sort of a wreck on the tracks, then, you know, the train is delayed and they miss their connections and they're late to work. And when they're returning home, it's the same issue. There's, you know, when there's some sort of a wreck and they're delayed, they're late picking up their child in daycare. And I don't envy the situation that you board members are in, because you seem to have two totally conflicting, you know, points of view here. You have the, you know, the people in Core Dallas that, you know, that are concerned about another surface alignment, you know, and that's slow and that's not particularly reliable. I mean, this section here between the West End and Pearl, I can outrun that train on my bicycle and do so on a regular basis. And when a 60-year-old man can ride his bicycle faster than you know, the light rail making the stops, then it's certainly an argument for putting it underground. What I'd like for you to consider, I know this is an age of polarization and everybody's trying to, you know, just to get their point of view heard, and nobody's able to listen to what the other side has to say, and that's kind of the way our culture's gotten. You're going to hear it at 8 o'clock tonight. What I want to encourage is, I know it's really tough financially to try to find a way to, you know, to bury D2 and do the cotton belt at, you know, the same time, and that seems to be what, you know, these 5 plans what you're looking at. What I'd like for you to encourage you to do is, let's look at the reliability factor. Let's bury D2, but look at some way that we can maybe just do some real basic cotton belt service. For example, just a few trains with pullovers, just single track. It would only stop at the places where there's the Green Line, the Denton Line, DCTA, and the Red Line, and the airport. Just basic airport service, park and ride, and then we can build on it later. I could see 50 years from now where we could have, you know, 120 mile an hour service on that line. I think that's doable. But let's start now, and let's look in the 20 years. Let's just find some basic level of service, and let's go ahead and do D2 right.
Thank you, Mr. Dublé. We have Julio, followed by Robert Lushak. Pronounce your last name for me, please.
Bejarano. Julio Bejarano.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I live over on Dickerson Street, but that's not what I'm going to talk about first of all. We're first of all going to talk about support for the D2. Come on, folks. Right now, your operating costs and your revenue shortfall for passenger trips are the worst there is of all the lines that are out there in the top 20. Quote D Magazine. With that in mind, when you take a look of what your 2 projects are, it's real simple. You got to go support D2. That's where all the people are. That's where all the motion is. You're going to try to put a train out there beyond Addison. I'll give you Addison. I lived in Addison. I also was part of the airport board about 3 or 4 mayors before. They deserve to have the train from there to the airport. I would maybe drive my car over there and take it from there. But by going in from there through the 2.6 miles, disrupting 3,000 families with that train, I wonder if any of you have really heard that train at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, zoom, zoom, zoom. It's not right. So first of all, I support D2. Number 2, I recommend that you enhance bus services to the outlying areas for the South Dallas, etc., where they need that. Number 3, finish your darn streetcar expansion. Now, on a side note, I happen to live at Dickerson Street, where there's a possibility that you're going to put a train. I've already spent $30,000 because of you folks, because you put a bridge in next to the railroad tracks. They had to raise that bridge 3 to 5 feet to meet the height of the train. In doing that, you are 3 to 5 feet higher than my house now with the new bridge. Okay, I got time. So my thought is, if you're going to go in there and run this train through the Cotton Belt, through that 2.6 miles, I'm just one guy who you're going to step on, not the rest. My suggestion is you look at other routes. The other routes being the Bush or the southward route. You have 2 other options. I understand that you want to get those students from over there on Hedgecox over to North Texas, or Texas, whatever, University of Texas there. Because right now you have a bus service doing it. It would be cheaper maybe to run the train, and that might be your only justification for running it through those 2.6 miles and destroying our property values. We happen to be pretty wealthy out in our area, and we appreciate that, but you also have to respect us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Robert Lushak, followed by Kevin Butler. And I hope I pronounced your name close to correct.
Yeah, Lushak, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you all for letting me speak tonight. I, like the previous 2 speakers, am also has some very large concerns about the Cotton Belt line. I ride the bus. I ride the express bus from Madison down to downtown daily. I used to live in Richardson. I used to ride the train. The jewel of the DART system to me is the express bus system. It's cleaner, it's nicer, it's nonstop, it's fantastic. My concerns about the Cotton Belt, first off, it's a 30-year-old plan. This was initially conceived in the early 80s, and at that point in time, it may have been very worthwhile, but a lot has changed in Dallas-Fort Worth in 30 years, and I think you all should be cognizant of looking at other alternatives, including the Bush route and the LBJ route. The community meeting at Park Hill, I was in attendance at, and there was a lot of unanswered questions and very little detail about why the train had to be at grade, why, and also why it had to be diesel engine, not electric, why there was no second review of George Bush or LBJ area. Lastly, one of my final concern is that initially the Cotton Belt was proposed as last year was proposed as a $2.9 billion rail project. This year it's a $1.1 billion rail project, and there's even one scenario where it's less than $1 billion. That's a big reduction of funds, and it doesn't seem like if you're losing over $1 billion on the total project that you're not going to do it right. And that's my recommendation to the board. That is, if you're going to do it right. Don't go through neighborhoods where you split up one side of the street to another, where you split schools into halves, half that live on the east side, half that live on the west side of the rail crossing. Don't do it at grade, where you're crossing major roads like Preston, Campbell, Coit. Don't use diesel when there's cleaner, quieter alternatives to go through neighborhoods. If the budget's shrinking, the mitigation's shrinking, and these pretty pictures that were shown at the public meeting with trees and trails, those are not going, I don't have faith that that's going to happen. Do it right, do what you can, do D2, do the enhanced bus service. Like I said, the express buses are fantastic. Do the streetcar build out, do DFW to Addison with modern clean electric engines, and evaluate the alternate routes to make sure you do it right and do it right the first time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lushak.
Next speaker is Kevin Butler.
Thank you for letting me speak to you all again, and thank you for your service to the region. I live in far north Dallas. I work in the Legacy area. I grew up in Plano. I'm a UTD alum. Needless to say, I'm very excited about the Cotton Belt, and I would gladly wear a yellow shirt like I saw last week if I knew who was giving them out. But between a D2 subway and a Cotton Belt, and getting Addison what they deserve. I mean, what about Glen Heights? They've been in DART since '83, and they don't have rail either. Like, I don't know what decision to make, but I do want to make you aware of something I've noticed in Plano. As of last Friday, the 829, the TI shuttle was discontinued, and that makes sense because the camp is closed. But that means, as of Friday, there are 2 whole zip codes in Plano with 0 regularly scheduled service. And I mean that there is an on-call zone, there is paratransit, there is a van pool, but there are 2 zip codes, 75023 and 75025, with 0 regular service. And, you know, my brother lives there now. I really want him to get excited about transit like I have in the last month and a half, but right now he can't. He'd have to get my dad to drive into Parker Road or maybe Northwest Plano. So I know it's not necessarily DART's fault. It's not just the city of Plano. I mean, this is a whole, you know, this is a tough issue to tackle. And so I will end my time with a question to the board. Hopefully you can point me into the right direction. I want to help encourage transit use in Plano. I've been talking to the city council. I've been talking to the Chamber of Commerce. I want to help encourage transit use. And, you know, I think a lot of routes in Plano could use bus benches and shelters and stuff like that. So what's the best way to make that happen? Can I supply the benches? Do I just give you guys money? Do I work with the city? What's the best way to, you know, make transit more accessible? And thank you for your time.
Mr. Butler, I want to speak with Rob Smith while you're here. Okay? Thank you. Thanks for coming. That concludes our public comment period of our meeting. The next item we have on the agenda is item number 4, which came through the Administrative Committee. Dr. Christian.
Madam Chair, item number 4 is approval of Operation Property Insurance Policy. It came through the Administrative Committee as well as the Committee of the Whole. I move approval.
Madam Chair, before we vote on this matter, I'm going to step out and recuse myself as my law firm represents one of the parties at issue.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Wageman has recused himself from this item. So item number 4, we have a motion and a second to approve the operational property insurance policy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, the item passes unanimously. Next item, number 5, also came through the Administrative Committee. Dr. Christian.
Madam Chair, can we take item 5 and 6 together?
Yes, sir.
Item 5 is increased funding for occupational health insurance, and item number 6 is contract option for Medicare Advantage PPO plan for retiree medical benefits, and they passed unanimously in the Committee of the Whole, and I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for items 5, increased funding for occupational health services, and item 6, contract option for Medicare Advantage PPO plan for retirees medical benefits. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, the item passes unanimously. Item number 7 came through the Revenue and Public Relations Committee. Mr. Stouffer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 7 is the contract award for general advertising services to Belmont Ice House LLC. It has come through the Revenue and Public Relations Committee and committee as a whole, and I move its approval.
Okay, item number 7, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, the item passes unanimously. Next item, number 8, came through the Operations, Safety, and Security Committee. Mr. Carzales.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 8, modifications to the interlocal agreement, ILA, with Dallas County for inmate detention services, came to the Operations, Safety, and Security Committee. When the Committee of the Whole was approved unanimously, we would ask that that be made formal tonight and approved by this board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for item number 8. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Okay, the item passes unanimously. That concludes our action items. We also had a speaker signed up, Cheryl Park. Did Cheryl Park show up? Cheryl Park? Okay. All righty. It is now 7:28 p.m. and this meeting stands adjourned.
Ms. William, hopefully your favorite videographer. We love comments. If you don't like the way Dart is handling things, lay it out for everyone to see. If you like or hate this video, tell us. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, tell us. We even love it when you call. Better yet, like or follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube and get instant notices of all our videos the moment they are posted.